remote council meeting. We have had a few glitches, so I do apologise to you for the 10-minute delay. We are using two systems tonight. We're using Zoom, which has just exploded in popularity given that we're facing the need to do remote working across the globe, but we're also using our InterStream, which is the normal camera setup that we use in our chamber so that we can broadcast this to you. So this is our first attempt. We have had a bit of a teething issue. We currently have all council members in attendance except with the technical issue for Councillor Joanne Fotakis, who will be joining us as soon as she can. So just before to officially start the meeting at 6:13 p.m. and acknowledge that whilst we are not all together, we all do meet on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. In terms of people away tonight, as I said, we do have a full house. We're having a technical issue with Councillor Joanne Fotakis, and we will hopefully get her to join us at the earliest convenience, and we will let you know when that happens. We did receive some questions this evening, so I will go to the CEO to read out the questions received. Thank you very much to Submitter Dudley Meyer for putting those questions through in electronic format.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Cole, I've got several questions from Mr. Dudley Meyer. The first regarding item 6.1, COVID relief measures, clause 1, attachment 1.3. The relief measure refers to the waiving of interest on outstanding rates, but the comment states immediately applies a waiver on outstanding rates from 23 March. Should this be immediately applies a waiver on the interest on outstanding rates or immediately defers collection of outstanding rates? Question mark. 2, will the waiving of interest on outstanding rates be extended to 2020-21 rates? 3, clause 2, in her letter, the Minister states, specifically, I would encourage all local governments to fast track the assessment of development applications for non-controversial development in attachment 2. Why is the city simply removing the need to get approval rather than actually fast tracking the assessment process as is done by other local governments, such as the City of Perth? 4, why aren't the delegations referred to in clause 3 of the recommendation time limited in a similar manner to the changes proposed in clause 2 of the recommendation? 5, given that waiving of interest rates on outstanding rates has budget implications, why isn't there wording in the recommendation indicating that the council approves the change by an absolute majority as there is for clause 3 of the same recommendation? 6.2, item 6.2 on arts relief funding. 6, why doesn't clause 5 of the recommendation clearly state that the funds will only be available to City of Vincent artists and creatives, as indicated under the background section and reiterated in detail section of the report? 7, can you confirm that the funds will only be made available to artists, creators living in the City of Vincent? 8, why doesn't the Arts Relief Working Group contain any community members with expertise in the field, such as members of the former Arts Advisory Group? Item 7.2, COVID Relief Committee. 9, why aren't the delegations in clause 5 by an absolute majority as required by section 5.16 of the Act? 10, given the terms of reference state that the members of the public are required to submit any questions for COVID-19 Relief Committee meetings at least 3 hours before a meeting, when will agendas for the committee meeting be made public so that community members have sufficient time to read the agenda and submit questions? 11, will members of the public be able to make statements as opposed to asking questions about items on the committee agenda? If so, what is the mechanism? 12, given that the published meeting schedule for the committee shows 8 of the 13 committee meetings coinciding with dates for council meetings, briefings or workshops, and given that all meetings will be conducted electronically, and given that most council members are likely to be confined at home, why isn't the city simply rescheduling special council meetings at which all community representatives, i.e. council members, can participate and at which some decisions can be made straight away without needing to come back to a council meeting? 7.3, Leadable Gardens Trust money. 13, given that the rules of association for Leadable Gardens stipulates that the trust money can only be dispersed. That's my 3 minutes, Mayor. There's 2 other questions which we'll take and put onto the written notice paper.
Thank you very much, CEO. Where executive members are able to answer those questions when we come to that item, please do feel free to address the questions. And where we haven't been able to address those questions tonight, we can respond to Mr. Meyer by email, but also we can have that as part of the minutes of this meeting. So I'll move to declarations of interest. CEO, I believe you said that you had not received any this evening. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Cole, yes, that's correct. I haven't received any declarations of interest.
Okay. It's not noted on the agenda, but normally at a council meeting I would make some comments, and I do feel that it is important to do that at this meeting. This is a special council meeting that we have called to urgently deal with COVID-19 relief and response from the City of Vincent. And this has been, I think many people are using the word, an unprecedented time in our country's history. And it has in fact been one of the toughest couple of weeks, I think, in the City of Vincent. It has been a really difficult time. We're seeing changes happening on a daily basis. We're seeing our businesses closing. There's a lot of heartbreak and stress being felt. You can feel it when you go out for your daily exercise around the park. You can see it on people's faces when you talk to businesses who have closed their doors. It is an incredibly painful time. And I think that we're just getting through this initial process, trying to understand the extent of what we're dealing with, and at the same time, really trying to action and quickly respond and mobilise to deal with the issues as we move forward. We are seeing the experience of physical separation. We know that these impacts are deep. We know that there is incredible financial pain happening in our community, and that the lives and livelihoods of so many are deeply impacted. Here at the City of Vincent, we've also had some very tough things to deal with. We've had to close Beatty Park, and the impacts for our community, for our staff that work there, for the casual workforce that are a great component of everything at Beatty Park. That's been incredibly hard for everybody involved. Our library and administration, our buildings have closed, but the difference being there is that our staff continue to work, that they continue to find ways to do their working remotely, and that the message there is that we are here and that we are working for you, and that has not stopped. We all know as a community and at the City of Vincent that these measures are critical to saving lives and to beat COVID-19, to flatten the curve. And I think that the response and the way that people have risen to these challenges in such a rapid and short period of time has been absolutely inspirational. It's been stoic. You can see the pain in people's faces, but everybody knows that we have to do this, and it's just been such an incredibly brave response from the community. We have been working across a range of measures, and while we're just having our special council meeting tonight, we have been acting, we have been putting measures in place, and this meeting tonight is really about focusing those efforts, putting it into a plan, making sure that we have an implementation plan that everybody's working to, that will be rapidly updated and evolving and changing as we go. Our initial focus has been on really putting in place those changing health directives with urgency and speed. And I want to say an enormous thank you to the team. I think I especially would need to mention Mark Fellows, our Manager of Health. He has done an outstanding job. He's been a cool head and extremely wise counsel through this time. Also, our organisation has been able to continue to serve because we've very quickly moved to remote working. Our IT systems have exponentially just grown, and that's a huge credit to Peter Ferguson and the team. So these are two people who have been critical in this very early phase of COVID-19. We are moving on to the urgent measures of looking at our finances, looking at the reprioritisation of our services, looking at how we can remobilise and reallocate staffing to help the most vulnerable in our community, to deal with the pain that's happening in our business community, to refocus our organisation and to put everything that we have towards dealing with this. So that is part of what we're dealing with tonight. We're also looking at agile decision making. We need to have a committee of 3 in order to make sure that we have people that are making decisions if council members fall ill. We need to make sure that we can still move forward without having to have a monthly meeting cycle. So we're putting in place agile decision-making processes with the support of the council. We will continue to have our regular council meetings. That won't change. And we are just moving with speed, and this will continue for the duration. What we have before us tonight is a plan that will be continuously reviewed, will adapt and change as we move through dealing with COVID-19. This is an incredibly tough time for everyone. It has been a tough time for our business as well, and we are urgently reviewing the significant impacts that are being felt on the City of Vincent's budget from lost revenue with the closure of Beatty Park and many declining revenue streams as life has just fundamentally changed around us. We are looking at our staffing impacts. We're urgently reviewing all discretionary expenditure, and we're throwing everything that we have at this. And some of the items tonight about looking at unlocking very specific purpose trusts with very specific purposes to actually open them up and use them in this greatest time of need. At the same time, our governance is absolutely critical. We will continue to be transparent. We'll continue to broadcast our meetings and to have community involvement in our decision making. That remains absolutely critical to the way the City of Vincent operates through this period. We are facing this together. That is the message. We're here. We are working remotely, but we're absolutely continuing, and we will work through this process together. And we know that there's going to be a lot of hardship that falls out of this, and we're going to work our way through that together to make sure that our community comes out of this all the more resilient for it. Challenges ahead, but if we all work together, we can get through it. Thank you. So, just in terms of the way the meeting will function, we have 6 items on the agenda tonight, so we'll move through them as normal. And if I could just call for people to raise their hand when they wish to move or second an item, and raise their hand when they wish to speak. So the first item that we're dealing with this evening is 5.1, waste services and potential impact of COVID-19 on the delivery of services, FOGO, and bulk waste deferral. Can I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Gontaszewski, seconded, Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Ultimately, I'm supportive of this recommendation, although it does break my heart a bit. But I think, as you've rightly said in this your speech earlier, that this is an unprecedented and challenging time, and that means that the city needs to be able to respond and make some very hard decisions where appropriate. I think that it's really important for us to consider that our waste services, general waste collection, our recycling collection, these are essential services, and that the item before us at this point in time relates to the deferral of FOGO implementation and the deferral of bulk hard waste collection. At this point in time, that there is no change and ongoing, prioritisation of waste services through this period. I think that from my reading of the item, we need to be clear that October 21 sounds like a really long time away, but that part of the decision-making in relation to this item is to do with contracting. And I thought that might just be where it's not considered to be a breach of commercial in confidence. I thought it might be worthwhile getting the Executive Director just to provide some clarity in relation to the decision around deferral for a year, and also the deferral of bulk hard waste until further notice, where in terms of flexibilities that may be appropriate there to recommence or to have that come back within a different time frame. So I was just wondering if we could get some comment on that.
Right, Belle, I'll hand over to you for some comment on the length of the contract and the deferral period.
Yeah, through you, Nicole. So firstly, deal with FOGO. The Deputy Mayor is correct. We currently contracted until October this year. So deferral of 12 months fits with the contract schedule. And we're about to go out to contract now. So deferral of 12 months, that's the reason why we've asked for the deferral of 12 months. In terms of the bulk waste, we've postponed it until further notice because we can, if times and things improve, we can pick that up any time. We don't have to wait a fixed period. So we've left that until further notice. So hopefully that answers the question.
And just a further question, because I think obviously we had made a decision that we would undertake a bulk waste collection in this first half of this year, or kicking off in the first half of this year, and just what communications are planned with the community so that we don't see people just making the assumption that it's happening and popping stuff out onto their verge. How will we ensure that the community is aware of this decision?
Yeah, through you, Michael. So currently the comms are about to start. So if you look at our website, you will find the dates for bulk waste as listed in April this year. But we've not done the letter drop and all the other comms that go with it. So we would immediately, if this decision is made tonight, change the website to correct that. And we would use all our other communication channels to remind people that the service is postponed until further notice.
Okay, thank you. No, look, I think that this is a necessary step for us to take. I think everyone on council and administration was very much looking forward to the rolling out of FOGO this year. But we have a challenge ahead of us and we need to focus on that and ensure that we are able to put all energies and where appropriate other resources into that. So I'm supportive of the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Gondaszewski. I'll go to Councillor Castle now.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm also supportive of this recommendation, and equally it is quite heartbreaking to have to put off some of these projects that we've been working on for a long time and are priorities for the city. I think it's important to note that, we all understand why these things have to be put off at this stage, and it's not because there's any lack of commitment to the projects, but simply because we cannot guarantee that we can roll them out in the way that we would need to, given the circumstances, not just within the city, but with our contractors, as Councillor Gondaszewski said. I think we're probably going to be having a lot of conversations in the next 6 to 12 months about what constitutes essential services, and I don't see this as a reflection of whether FOGO is or is not essential, but it's simply just a reflection of what the environment is like in terms of getting a contract at this point. And I look forward to a time when we can revisit this and bring it back.
Thank you, Councillor Castle. Are there any other council members who wish to speak to this item? Councillor Toppelberg.
Just a question through you to the Director, just in relation to bulk waste. If somebody does have something that they had planned on getting rid of and they don't have means to get rid of it privately, are they able? Is there a paid service available through the city? I don't offer a mattress service, but if somebody has something that would otherwise be suitable for bulk waste, does the city either directly or are we equipped to provide access to a provider who can offer that on a fee-for-service basis?
Yes, through you, Nicole. Councillor Topper was correct. We offer the on-demand services for mattresses and white goods, so those continue. We've had them in place for a few years now, so residents have that option. Obviously, we're a member of Midari Regional Council, so people can use Tamala Park if they need to. Those services are still open. We'd always say a word of caution because things are changing with the COVID situation, but they're currently open. You can take material there. And we also have Balcata, which is owned by the City of Stirling, on our doorstep. So those facilities are open. We checked today. In terms of people who need more help, the waste team is really happy to advise people and help people get a service if they need to. And even our contractor might be able to do something on a small scale if somebody really was in trouble. So we'll certainly do everything we can to help people who find it difficult to get rid of that material.
So just on that, in the communications, both online or any of the comms that relate to the delay or the until further notice or the deferral of the bulk waste service, will that include a contact phone number that gets directly through to the waste team? If somebody needs to speak to someone about it?
Yes.
Through you, Matt?
Through you, Nicole. Sorry to interrupt in. Yeah, we will add that number. I mean, the comms are partly prepared, ready to go out tomorrow if you make this decision, but we'll make sure we add those contact details and a link to our website as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Toppelberg. Any comments or questions from other council members? Look, I'll just quickly comment. I think that the issue is twofold. There's the sort of security of the contract at this very unknown time, but there's also the fact that rolling out FOGO was going to be very much a community-driven change at the doorstep, with a lot of communication between our waste team and council with residents, and that was a key part of the project, that it wasn't simply just having the new rubbish truck up on the doorstep, but that we actually had a communications program, education program, everything like that was coming and be part of this, and that is very difficult to roll out at this time. So that's another reason why it's difficult. And on junk waste, look, I do understand there's a lot of people at home at the moment, and a lot of people are having a big tidy up. And we've got our green waste collection happening, which means that people have really been able to get out there and get in the garden. And for some people, that when you're thinking about spending a lot of time at home, it's quite nice to think that you could clear out some unwanted junk from around your house, and I absolutely empathise with that. But I think that the worry for the city is that the contractor may not be able to deliver on that service, and the thought of having uncollected junk on our verges would be extremely concerning at this time. We also had some concerns about handling of that junk rubbish. We know that people do like to recycle off verges, and know that that's often part of junk verge collection, and for some people that's a key part of it that they love, but it does present health risks. So from the perspective of having risk around the contractor not being able to continue the service and rubbish being left on the streets, as well as some of the public health issues around handling of that rubbish, they were quite instrumental in this recommendation coming forward. Are there any further comments from council members? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Well, Ashley, I think I can see your hand. Yes, I see all council members have their hands in the air, so that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the 6.1 COVID-19 urgent relief measures. Could I please have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Fotakis, seconded Councillor Gontaszewski.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Jo.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Got the technology worked out. I noted yesterday at a press conference that WA Health Minister Roger Cook said we're trying to find good solutions to complex problems in an unpredictable circumstances. And I thought that was pretty much summed up a lot of what's been occurring and a lot of the great work that's been happening behind the scenes. Sometimes the solutions, that are coming forward might seem like it's simplistic, from the community's point of view, but they're so complex in terms of what we need to appreciate. And we've already, as Mayor Cole said, we've already seen the deep impact that COVID-19 has had on our community. We've seen massive job losses and the closure of businesses and our schools and community groups, and even the city's own services. So I just wanted to say genuinely how proud I am of how our community has rallied together, helping each other, selflessly reaching out to neighbours, continuing to look out for each other and continuing to shop. Our local, buy local, shop local spirit continues. And it's more than ever at this time that we need to look out for each other. So the measures that are proposed here, fully supportive, they're wide-ranging, they're comprehensive. We need to also make sure, remembering during this time, that we do, as Vincent always has, is to look after the most vulnerable in our community and ensure that they remain supported and connected during this pandemic. So these urgent relief message have my absolute full support.
Thank you, Councillor Fotakis. Moving on to Councillor Susan Gontaszewski.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that there was Mr. Meyer had submitted some questions in relation to this item. I don't know if the intention is to try and deal with them while we're online, or whether it's we're going to respond to him in writing. I wondered whether there was any commentary.
Through you, Mayor Cole.
We'll try to, if directors would like to tackle some of those questions now, that would be fantastic. There was, I see that the Executive Director of Community and Business is ready to answer, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Cole. Look, I will answer the majority of these questions in writing once I've had an opportunity to look at them, but just to respond to a couple of the key questions there, the relief measure that refers to waiving of interest is actually intended to focus on the interest that is applied to rates in arrears. There is also interest that's applied to rates when people are on a payment plan. That's not the interest that we're talking about. We're talking to those people who have rates in arrears. And the other thing I'd just like to clarify is that when we are making measures here that have budgetary impacts, there will be a second process here where we're revising the budget urgently. We will bring back those budget changes for a more detailed review and approval of council. And in that process, we will address some of the specifics that are mentioned there. So that will be occurring shortly. The intent of this paper is to ensure that we're developing measures that have the support of council, and then we can take it to that next level of financially assessing it and making sure that we've got a budget that can deliver it. I think the other question that I noted was around timeframes. Where there is timeframes are not mentioned or are absent, the intention here is that this is an urgent relief package that applies for at least the next 6 months. And so we will be reporting on that on a regular basis to council, and we will certainly at that 6-month mark bring back a review of delegations to ensure that they are still required, or if they can be cancelled at that stage. I think that was all the key questions that I was going to answer at this time.
I can add to that, Nicole, as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to Director to talk about the planning-related questions. That would be fantastic.
Thank you. In relation to the third question, which related to why the city's removing the need to get approval rather than fast-tracking the assessment, the administration's position on that was that the best way of fast-tracking the assessment and development applications is to actually remove the need for specific types of development applications in the first place. We felt that was going to benefit the community more than creating a process where they still needed to apply and pay a fee and go through a process that would take, 2 weeks, a week, or whatever it was. So we thought the best way of fast tracking it for those businesses out there that need that help is to remove the approval process altogether for specific types of applications in specific locations, i.e. outside of residential areas. And again, just in relation to the difference between why there was a time period put on temporary development and why there wasn't one on the delegations, the reason is that there was a need. Obviously, there's a need to have a time frame put on temporary development, so we understand what that means. And so we were very specific around what we considered temporary development to be and what we're recommending council adopt in that space. Delegations are reviewed at least annually, and the next review is due before September 2020, which is less than 6 months away. So we considered it to be appropriate for council to review those delegations at that time, as they do every year. So there would be no need to specify a time frame in that case.
Thank you very much, Director. I'm back to you, Councillor Gomszewski.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Cole. Look, thank you for those responses. I appreciate them. I think, look, the only certainty that we face at the moment is this rapid change that we're all experiencing. I saw a picture pop up in my newsfeed today that was only 4 weeks ago that people were standing down the side of the street watching Highway to Hell as part of the Perth Festival. And we've seen incredible change in our town centres through our businesses for many of our residents. And I think, as Councillor Vitakis said, I've been really proud to see how the community's rallied together, and I've also been very proud to see how the administration has responded and the Mayor has responded in terms of putting all energies towards thinking about how we can work to support our communities through this time. That may be through direct relief measures, or it may be through streamlining administrative processes so that where people want to innovate, they are able to do so. So, look, very supportive of this, and I'm sure that we will see more relief measures at all levels of government over coming days, weeks and months, and I think that this is a great start. So thank you.
Councillors, any further comments or questions? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? I have 9 hands in the air, so I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item that we're dealing with this evening is item 6.2, $500,000 COVID-19 arts relief funding from developer contributions % for art program. Could I please have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Vitakis, seconded Councillor Hallett.
Okay, this one's really deep to my heart as well, having worked in the arts field and also on the Arts Advisory Group for the first 2 years, or almost 3 years that I was on council. So in Australia, I don't think a lot of people are aware that even prior to COVID, that about a third of our artists live below the poverty line, and it's really significant. When we look at the impact that COVID-19 has had on our artists and our arts community, our arts sector was one of the first to be impacted. So we saw local artists and performers losing work as our events and our public gatherings and our exhibitions and our performances all had to be cancelled, and that rightfully so, because it's in the interests of public health. But our arts and creativity are central to who we are as a people, and they're central to the success of our unique, innovative, cosmopolitan community. It's really one of the things that gives us a point of difference. And there isn't an apartment development built or that currently is being developed that hasn't at some time promoted our public art, our murals, all our venues, our events as a draw card for potential purchasers. And the reason why I refer to this, it's very specific where this $500,000 has come from, and it's come from the accumulated % for art cash and lieu funds. We've got some significant documents that are going to help guide the decision on the spending of those funds. One of the most significant guiding documents is our strategic community plan, in which arts is an essential part of our community's vision. And we know that because those of us who attended and went through the Vincent community consultation, there were over 1,000 of us in the community that participated, that the word art was mentioned more than 400 times. The other guiding document, which was put together with the assistance of the Arts Advisory Group, is the Arts Development Plan, and that already has identified a number of key projects and actions. Councillor Gondaszewski pointed out previously that as other government fundings become apparent, and today I was really pleased to see the announcement of the additional Lotteries West, I think 150 million being allocated to various programs in the community, and that includes our arts organisation. So I'm really pleased to see the work that's been done to enable this recommendation to come before us tonight, and absolutely fully supportive of it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vitakis. I'll go to Councillor Hallett now.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, just a question raised through Mr. Meyer in the non-public gallery through the written questions. Just wondering if you can confirm that when we talk about local artists and creative industries, we're specifically talking about those that are, I guess, living and working specifically within the City of Vincent alone.
Through you, Mayor Cole, I can confirm the intent is to support City of Vincent residents who are artists and creatives through this funding. Yep.
Thank you. I'm not sure that I can add much to Councillor Fotakis's response there, but I think just to reiterate, this community was one of the first drastically hit, not just because of the type of work that they're doing in terms of supporting events and initiatives like that, but also the high level of precarious work in this sector. And so it's really great that we are able to, I guess, repurpose this money specifically to help that sector as one of the first initiatives that we're rolling out. So happy to support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Hallett. I just want to ask, did you wish to make an amendment to make that clarification to the final clause? Are you satisfied with the intent?
I'm comfortable with the intent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to the CEO who's raised his hand.
Yes, through you, Mayor Cole, and I might ask the Director of Strategy and Development to comment on this, that under the Percent for Art policy, the money needs to be used on public art, but that's at the discretion of Council. And there needs to be a needed nexus between the development and the public art. So the expenditure relates more to the production of a piece of art, and it'll be up to the working group and Council to go through that process on whether it's confined to local artists.
Thank you, CEO. Councillors, do you have any questions about this item or comments before I move to the panel or the working group members? Okay, so during the week I did ask for council members to express interest via email. It still remains open to council members to put their hands in the air. It would be an interesting experience to run a ballot online, but we'll give it a go. If there are more hands in the air than there are positions, but we are calling for, first of all, 3 council members to participate on this working group. So if I could have a show of hands and we'll see if we get beyond 3. I have Councillor Fotakis, Councillor Smith, Councillor Wallace. Yes, there's a hand. I see 3 hands and no more. So we're going with Councillor Fotakis, Councillor Smith and Councillor Wallace as the working group members. And can I seek a council member to chair? Councillor Fotakis is putting up her hand. Any further? No? Okay, that seems like a fantastic fit given that Councillor Fotakis has been on the Arts Advisory Group. So thank you all. So that then means that clause 3 will appoint the 3 council members just named, Fotakis, Smith and Wallace, and clause 4 will appoint Councillor Fotakis as the chair. Are there any further comments or questions on this item? Okay, I'll put it. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Executive Director, did you wish to say something?
Just one more comment, Mayor Cole. I think the member of the public had a question about why there were no community members on the committee. And I would suggest that the committee, when it's actually formulated, could consider that question. At the moment, we've gone for speed, and and that's the reason why we're appointing councillors at this time.
Thank you, Director. That's a good point, and I think that it would remain open to the Arts Advisory Group to be called upon to provide feedback into the process as well. So that's a good point. Councillor Fotakis, you have moved the item, so you will be closing debate unless you just wish to ask a question. But is there any? But I will go to you if there's no other councillors that wish to speak first. We have a comment from the Director of Governance, also Manager of Strategy and Governance.
The recommendation refers to deputy members as well. So do we want to appoint 3 deputy members? That's item 3 in the recommendation.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, so item 2, that I've got a bit lost there because item 2 didn't have the dotted lines to fill in the 3 council members. Can I call for 3 deputies also as part of the motion? 3 deputies to participate. Councillor Hallett. Councillor Castle, Councillor Loden, thank you very much. We have 3 deputies. Is there any further comments or questions? Otherwise, I'll go to Councillor Fotakis to close debate. Okay, over to you, Councillor Fotakis.
Thank you, Mayor. You did raise one of the points was the issue on the deputies. I did also want to just address the question with regards to the membership on that. Absolutely. I think that will be something that will be addressed within the first meeting is the support from our community. But I'm also cognizant that participation in these groups and conflict of interest. So I will tread very carefully in that. A number of our members of the Arts Advisory Group are local artists, so I would not want to conflict them out of being able to access those funds on the basis of them providing us with voluntary assistance. So that's all I had to say on that.
And just a governance question before we vote on this item. Do we actually need a clause that lists the 3 working group council members?
Through you, Mayor Cole, I think we're writing that in hard copy now.
Yeah.
So whilst we don't have the dotted lines, it's taken that clause 2 will say appoints the 3 elected members, Councillor Fotakis, Councillor Smith and Councillor Wallace to the Arts Relief Working Group, etc. Okay, then that's part of the motion that you're about to vote on. Okay, so can I please call for everyone to now vote on the motion? I think we have 9 hands in the air. Thank you very much, everybody. That's adopted unanimously. The next item is 7.1, which is the COVID-19 Relief and Recovery Strategy and Implementation Plan. Can I please call for a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Gontaszewski. Seconded Councillor Hallett. Before we go to the mover and seconder, I'm just wondering, there was mention that our Executive Director for Community and Business, who has maybe not with us at the moment, I just wanted to go to you, Director, to say that did you want to give a bit of a brief outline on the financial position at this time, or is that still something that you're working through?
I'm very happy to give a high-level overview for members of the public so they understand our position. So as we're all aware, the external environment is changing very quickly, and so we are currently assessing the financial implication for the city. We have, because we've had to close down a number of our businesses, and also we are being impacted by the impact on our residents as well. Our income is going to be significantly reduced this quarter, and we're estimating at least $4.2 million. We mentioned that Beatty Park has closed down. That's a significant source of revenue for us, and we've also required to stand down approximately 140 casuals and sole traders who work at that business as well. So in order to provide immediate relief, we have looked at our non-essential discretionary spend within the business. We've been looking at ways to save money to balance the books. We're looking at opportunities to defer projects, and also we're looking at whether or not there are capital works that we can defer. It might be financially prudent for us to continue with some capital works. So an example of that might be where we've got some maintenance required on Betty Park. The opportunity to do that while there are no people using the centre is an opportune one. So that may be something that we continue with. And elected members will be aware that we are currently working through some immediate actions. We've just discussed some relief measures that have been funded from special purpose reserves. We're currently looking in detail at our leases. We have a number of community groups and corporations or corporates that have leases from the city, and we'll be discussing their situations. We're currently doing an urgent review of the budget and cash flow for the existing financial year, which I alluded to previously. And we're obviously we need to do a lot of work on resetting the proposed budget for the new financial year. And I think there would be an expectation that we are looking at zero rates and fees scenario with that. So we'll be putting that to council. And finally, this situation drastically changes our long-term financial plan. So we'll need to review that as well. That's it for the moment.
Thank you very much, Director. I thought it was important to frame this discussion with a bit of a update on the financial situation that the city is facing. But I'll now go to the mover, Councillor Gondaszewski, to speak to the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'm supportive of this item. I think that the gravity of the situation that the city and our residents and our businesses are facing requires a dedicated planning and strategic response from the city. I also think it will be useful to have a public-facing document that can be updated and be dynamic as decisions are made, so that we can ensure that everybody's on the same page as to what the city is doing in relation to managing our response to the pandemic. I think that we, first and foremost, we need to ensure that we are complying with directives issued from a public health perspective, and use our available health resources and health expertise to ensure the well-being of our communities. And there's been strong action taken from the city in that regard already. And then, moving forward, in parallel, we need to ensure that we are monitoring and acting towards vulnerable groups in our community, and look to support change and innovation that will assist people both seeing out this, initial phase, but also towards recovery of the city and our businesses and all of those that have been impacted by COVID-19. And I think that I'm not going to say any more. I think that the Mayor's obviously had a strong role in the driving this document, and so I'll leave further commentary to Mayor Cole.
Before we do that, we'll go to the seconder, Councillor Hallett.
It sounds like you've got some really good things to say, Mayor, so I'll let you speak to it.
We'll just open it up to see if anyone else wishes to speak first. Look, the idea of having a strategy and an implementation plan, I know that sometimes in local government you criticise for spending time planning when you should be doing. So I just really wish to assure our community that we have not stopped, that we have been doing the doing and we're doing the planning at the same time. And that's really important, because so much of our efforts at the moment, as Councillor Gondaszewski has said, has just been on dealing with the rapid change of the health directives that have been coming out that affect our community, our businesses, and the City of Vincent and our own operations. And at the same time, we have been driving this plan and strategy in order to make sure that we capture everything that we do during this period, that it's about the short, medium and long term. So while we've been cracking on with those short-term measures and responses, we're also trying to keep ahead to think about what comes next. It's about capturing all the ideas. We've actually been getting ideas from community members. There's all sorts of things flowing in. This is going to be an evolving plan, and the idea is that the implementation plan attached is a live document that's continuously reviewed and is evolving throughout this process. The main strategy document is about setting in place the governance structure, and that's about agile decision making. It's about understanding what we're receiving in terms of directives under the Emergency Management Act, under the health directives that we're receiving, to capture those, make sure that that's documented. But it's also about setting in place a COVID committee of council with 3 members, appointed, and all council members acting as deputies, so that if we are impacted in terms of health and wellbeing as a group, we can continue to have agile decision making, and that's happening on at least a weekly basis, and that will also be meetings that are open through this online platform to our community members, so that you're very aware of what the city is doing and how we're responding. When we get down to the actions, in the implementation plan, there's just a range of things there. Some of it's about the financial aspects, it's about the way that we're dealing with fees and charges, it's about the way we're dealing with hardship, it's about our move to use all special purpose funds available to us at this time. And then as we go on, there'll be more about community building initiatives. So we're sort of dealing with emergency relief measures at the moment. We're talking about budget planning, looking at the impacts that's had on our business and how we can redirect our services and get all focus happening to COVID-19. We're looking at vulnerable people, for example, Meals on Wheels, Books on Wheels, and as we go, as I mentioned, I think we're going to be moving into a phase where we look at how does the City of Vincent retain a focus on community building and dealing with physical distance and the social isolation that comes with that. So we haven't got everything in this document right now. It's an incredibly good start, but it will grow and evolve as we move through this period. I think we're just prioritising. We know what we need to do. It gives us the structure to do it, and it demonstrates to our community that we are going to be responsive and agile, because that is one of the most important things that we can do right now. So it sets us up to be able to do that. But the document has got all of the details in it, and I would encourage our community to have a look at this document and read through it. Everyone is invited to put forward a view. If you see something or have an idea, please email me and put an idea forward. It's a time of great change, and as we move forward, particularly around those community building initiatives, when you look at what's happening around the world, you see some incredible ideas coming forward about how we actually maintain really good mental health and communication and connection during this really difficult time. So I think that's going to be a body of work that really kicks off in the from this point forward through the medium and into the long term as well. Are there any further comments from council members or from the executive team? Manager of Policy in Place, you have been working pretty solidly on this. Is there anything that you wish to add? No? Okay, all happy? All right. Are there any further comments? There was an amendment that I put forward to this item. And as you know, I can't move an amendment, so I've put it here for your consideration. Councillor Toppelberg, are you wishing to move the amendment, or are you asking a question?
The amendment, happy to move the amendment as worded.
Thank you. Councillor Gonczewski, were you seconding the amendment? Okay, thank you. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Toppelberg?
Look, I think we've been approached about rates relief. We've been approached about all sorts of things, the request from the state, and I think that in terms of our own, until we are certain about our own financial position, I think this is something that is reasonable to, and what the amendment is asking for us to consider it, not to commit to it. But I think that being realistic, forgetting about ability to collect or ability to pay for businesses and residents alike, just the idea of an increase to rates or an increase to fees and charges is something that right at the moment is not is likely not feasible and neither fair. So I think that it's all this requires is that the administration present that scenario to us as we make our budget consideration. I think it's entirely appropriate, so happy to forward it and support it.
Thank you, Councillor Topelberg. Councillor Gontaszewski.
No, nothing from me. Happy to support the amendment.
Anything further, council members, on this amendment? Okay, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? 9 hands in the air. That's unanimous. We're back to the substantive. Are there any further comments or questions on the substantive motion? Councillor Smith.
I just really wanted to make a comment just to acknowledge all the work that yourself, Mayor Cole, has put into this. This has been as we've said, unprecedented times, and I just wanted to thank you for everything that you've done, as well as administration and all the executives. It's been incredible, and I know it's been a very stressful time, but you have just led the way for us and shone brightly like you do, and I'm just really proud to be a part of this team, and I just wanted to share my thanks. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. That's lovely. Has been a lot of work happening behind the scenes on this one. Big thank you to our Manager of Policy in place, and also our CEO has been, a force of calm and keeping things moving through the administration. So I really appreciate those comments. Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Are there any further comments before I put the motion? Okay, I'll put it. All those in favour? 9 hands in the air. That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, the next item is 7.1, establishment of a COVID-19 Relief and Recovery Committee. Could I please have a mover and seconder? Moved Councillor Topelberg, seconded Councillor Gontaszewski.
Not much to say, just the only thing I'll comment in terms of the question that came from, that was submitted by Mr. Meyer, that the construct of the committee is one thing, the scheduled meetings, but I think the key reason why the committee needs to exist is for the very reason that it would likely have unscheduled meetings over the next few months, and the requirement to delegate some of those powers is real. So I have no issue with the proposed structure and think that it's a responsible way to deal with the issue, and the openness for ideas and also for contributions is there, and I'm happy to support it. I'll deal with the nominations section separately, but I'm happy to. I think it's an appropriate response from a council of our size and the way in which we work and the way in which council and administration works collaboratively always.
Oops. Can you hear me? Just change screen.
We can hear you fine, Mayor Cole.
Okay. Sorry. The seconder was Councillor Gontaszewski. If you could please speak to it while I sort my screen out, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Mayor Cole. No, again, I'm supportive of this. I think this is part of our relief and recovery plan is to have this group that can be, I guess, the key words are agile and responsive, so that we can make key decisions as required going forward. I would echo Councillor Topelberg's comments in relation to the collegiate relationship between council and administration, and that will be relied upon going forward. And yes, other than that, I guess I would just like to believe that I've already sent in a nomination under number 3, but if not, then happy to nominate to be on this group.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to it before I go to nominations? And just so you know, I don't have it all on my screen anymore. So if you could say something out loud if you wish to speak as well, just as I sort myself out, that would be great. Okay. All right, so I'm calling for nominations now. I've got Councillor Gontaszewski who's nominated. Can I have a third nominee, please? My name is there as chairing. Councillor Castle is nominating. Thank you, Councillor Castle. Are there any further nominations? Thank you. The next question is any council member unable for any reason to be a delegate to this committee? Okay, everyone can fulfil the role as delegate. Thank you. I just had a question just in relation to if I become unwell for any reason or incapacitated, can this continue to function with, say, the Deputy Mayor stepping into the Mayor role and then one or two delegates coming in? Is that the way that it's intended to operate?
Through you, Mayor Cole, yes, and there's some language which is on the screen that the Deputy Chairperson would preside in your absence. And if neither the Mayor or Chair or Deputy Chair wasn't available, then the committee made up of the 3 members, including deputies, would appoint a acting presiding member.
Fantastic, thank you, CEO. Are there any further comments or questions in relation to this item? Oh, yes, Councillor Castle.
Yes, I mean, obviously supportive of this item. I think it does give us a bit more flexibility to make decisions quickly. But I also wanted to make the point in our discussions about how this committee might operate, it certainly was expected that all council members will be welcome to participate and watch as any members of the public can with the committee, so that we are all up to speed on what is happening. And, you know, that will certainly add some more collegiality to the decision making of the committee. And I think that also will help if there are members of the committee who are incapacitated, who are unable to attend, that those other deputies will be up to speed and ready to hop in at a moment's notice.
Thank you, Councillor Castle. Are there any further comments or questions?
Through you, Mayor Cole, can I just respond to one of the public questions we received?
Yeah, sure.
About the scheduling of the meetings, and through you, Mayor Cole, our intention would be for a Tuesday meeting that we would publish the agenda and the agenda papers and all the recommendations on Friday. So there was the Saturday, Sunday, the weekend, Monday and Tuesday for members of the public and committee members to review the papers. We'd be expecting continued announcements and changes on a day-to-day basis, but we'll endeavour to have all the papers published on a Friday in advance of a Tuesday meeting.
Thank you, CEO. Any further comments, council members? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Nine hands in the air, unanimous support. Thank you very much. It's carried. The last item that we have this evening is 7.3, which is a $1 million Leederville Gardens Trust COVID-19 relief funding. Is there a mover and seconder for this item, please? Can't tell if people are scratching their noses or putting their hands up. Move Councillor Toppelberg, seconded Councillor Gontaszewski.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll leave the question that was asked in relation to, asked about whether or not Leederville Gardens board were informed, but I think that the item is self-explanatory. These funds, for a variety of reasons, there's been a lot spoken about this over many years, but there is no question that these funds have a very specific purpose. and certainly in my time in council and likely the existence of the City of Vincent to date and probably going forward, there would be a few who could argue that a time where a benevolent organisation to assist within the community would require funds to assist, that there would be a more appropriate time. The specifics about who and what they can do is the reasons why we've gone to an EOI. We haven't issued a tender and given a specific contract. We've looked for an EOI. I think that reflects a desire to make a significant contribution where we can in the community as the trustee for these funds, and at the same time it opens it up to the organisations that would be able to equip the funds to be able to present to us what is the best way. The other key element to it is that we will have, or do and will have, the ability to offer other assistance, which may be in the form of volunteers or otherwise. We have a number of staff who've either been stood down or who may not be able to perform their full functions currently. So we would be in a unique position to be able to not only provide what is in these times significant funds, but also the support and infrastructure to be able to do something meaningful with it. And I'm very keen to see what comes back, and sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Councillor Toppenberg. I'll go to Councillor Gondaszewski.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think that in the rapidly evolving situation that's been faced, there's been, as Mayor Cole said, whether it's been from the community or whether from administration or through council and the mayor as well, people are looking for ways to support vulnerable people within our community and people that may be experiencing hardship through this pandemic. And this is one of those mechanisms whereby we are seeking to be able to implement utilise funds to provide relief and support to residents, people experiencing housing stress and homelessness within the City of Vincent, and make use of these funds that have a restricted purpose, but one that does certainly align with the needs that the community is experiencing at this time. So yes, I think that it will be important that we undertake a strong process of engagement with the public benevolent institutions that may be interested in accessing these funds and delivering services, whether that's a ramping up of existing service programs or looking at new programs to deliver within the city to support our vulnerable groups at this time. So yes, as Councillor Toppenberg said, I'm very pleased that this has come to this meeting, and I'm also looking forward to seeing what is able to be achieved with the use of these funds.
Thank you, Councillor Gondaszewski. CEO, you wish to comment?
Through you, Mayor Cole, there was a question from Mr. Meyer in the public question time whether or not we'd been in contact with the board of leadable governments to advise them of this proposed EOI, and I can confirm that I did meet with board members a week and a half ago to say this was under active consideration, and they're aware of this item going to the special council meeting tonight.
Thank you, CEO. Council members, any further comments or questions? I can't see any hands in the air. Look, I know that it has been stated a few times tonight, but both this and the % for art funding are very much specific purpose trusts, and this is actually a, sorry, I'm just trying to look for the right wording here. This is a trust fund, and the arts is actually a reserve fund. These are specific purpose funding. I know there may be questions about what are we doing for other parts of our community, for example, business. And I think that one of the key things that we're looking at with our finances is unlocking any special purpose funds that are relevant and that can help during this time. It has to be said, we are not a council that has large municipal reserves. That is unfortunately not the City of Vincent, because we are a small local government. We draw the majority of our revenue from our residential rate base. We have a lot of ageing assets, big assets, things like Beatty Park Leisure Centre, which are difficult for for local government, but that's what we have. So we unfortunately don't have huge municipal reserves at our fingertips to be able to release during this time. We have to be very, very clever in the way we use the municipal funding that we do have, and that because we are fortunate to have these very specific purpose funds, and we think that this is absolutely the time when they are of greatest need. We are fortunate to be able to unlock these both tonight for this specific purpose. Interestingly, I did attend a webinar with WELGA with a strong message both from the Premier and from the Minister for Local Government, David Templeman, and the messaging to local government is, this is the rainy day, it is here, throw everything that you have at this, because when we come out of this, recovery will really depend on how we actually get people through this period. There's no point sitting on it and waiting. If we can actually keep people well looked after, keep our arts community tinkering and doing things during this period, then we're actually helping move through this period into recovery. So very important for us to use the resources that we do have available to us. Are there any further comments or questions? Okay, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. So that was the last item that we had on the agenda for this evening. I do just want to say to everyone, thanks very much for bearing with us for our first remote council meeting. I think overall we did start 10 minutes late, but we didn't do too badly overall. I think that was a good first effort, and we look forward to refining this process and working on it as we go through. We will be next available online for the first meeting of the COVID committee next Tuesday at 5 p.m, followed by our council briefing for our normal regular monthly meeting cycle, and that agenda has been released and is available on our website. So thank you very much everyone for your participation this evening, and that was overall not too bad. So thanks everyone and good night.